as somebody who wants to come and relocate a business here or a data center that consumes a lot of power, now you have costs that now are in line with the rest of the world. So we need to think holistically about this thing. This is just not a simple thing that you do with one piece of legislation and hope that everything comes together. It doesn't work that way. Everybody has to work together within the economy. The other thing which is extremely important here is the opportunity to establish an internet exchange point here in the Bahamas. What is an internet exchange point? We have ISPs, but now we have IXP. But what an IXP does, and right now there are about 474 of them all over the world, ranging from Africa all the way to Oceania. We have none here in the Bahamas. There's even an IXP in Haiti. But what an IXP does is it allows people who route data, ISPs, data centers, to essentially establish what we call deterministic or intelligent routing, where data can be transferred or tracked or intelligently routed to any place you want to go around the world, if you will. An IXP here allows you to do that. Right now in the Bahamas, we rely on the Nap of America. The majority of the traffic that leaves the Bahamas over the internet hits the Nap of America or hits South Florida. The other IXPs in the region are in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and in Haiti. They have an IXP. There's no reason why we can't have an IXP here in the Bahamas. Now, what does that do for us? What it allows us to do is it allows us now, as data centers, people in the knowledge economy, to decide based on that client's requirement how their data gets routed around the world. We don't have to rely on anyone else to filter our data as we communicate and do business globally. Now, what I'm going to show you here is a spaghetti map of the global undersea cable routes. What this does and what it shows is that every single country is connected globally. Now, what does that mean here for the Bahamas? There are Bahamas undersea cables here, and the primary ones here are BDNSI, BICS, Bahamas 2, and ARCOS. ARCOS really connects us to the rest of the world. Okay? Now, here's what we can do here. You have the Bahamas Domestic Submarine Network owned by BTC. Connects the entire Bahamas, even Ragged Island, which is where I descended from. Happy to see that. All the way into Haiti. Then the other connections we have, and again, that's owned by Bahamian company. The other connection we have is owned by Caribbean Crossings, which is called BICS. That connects us mainly in the northern Bahamas into South Florida. Then we also have Bahamas 2, which connects through New Providence, Freeport, and then into South Florida as well. And then you have here, ARCOS. ARCOS connects us to the rest of the world. So it allows us now to hop, and ARCOS has various landing points in the Bahamas as well. So if we are our own IXP, we can do the deterministic routing through ARCOS or any other cable that comes through the Bahamas to determine where our client data goes and determine exactly how they communicate their information worldwide. Now, what are the advantages here of Bahama Data Center Solutions? Data sovereignty. We can create an environment and a package that lets people know if you come to the Bahamas and you domicile your business in the Bahamas, we will put in the necessary laws and procedures in order to make sure that your business gets protected because after all, you are a Bahamian company. The other thing that we do, again, with deterministic routing, world-class data center services. What I'm showing you here are the companies that are among the leaders in data center solutions and connectivity. There is no reason why these organizations can't partner together to create this IXP. Because once you do that, the rising tide will float all boats for everybody. You will see a lot of opportunities will emerge, not just for these players, but for other players in the Bahamas as well. Now, who are target customer segments that we say come to the Bahamas? Well, of course, they're financial firms, legal services firms, entertainment companies, online retail. What I'm proposing here does not necessarily involve the Google clouds of the world or the Amazon clouds or things of that nature. Because their business model is providing data center services worldwide in order to improve efficiencies. What I'm talking about are organizations who have made a strategic decision that they want their cloud to be hosted in a specific country or domicile based on the laws that are a part of that country or domicile. That's what I'm talking about here. And that's the opportunity that I think we can turn around and grab. What we have here now is a positive impact, if we build this industry right, on our employment numbers. So you're looking at building people that are part of the knowledge economy, all the way from executives down to operations support staff. What does that mean for us? And I'm going to say this very, very clearly. I've been in the Bahamas from kindergarten or early school at Manny School in Ragged Island, all the way through graduating from Kingsway, and I went off to school in the United States. We have to understand and we have to bite the bullet that our students here in the Bahamas, for the most part, are not performing well when it comes to the STEM subjects. We have to realize that, we have to own it, and we have to do something about it as a country. Because if we're going to build this knowledge economy, we need people who are knowledgeable, people who are smart, people who understand technology. And it has to start in our education system. We have to recognize that rather than hiding behind the scores that we make on BGCSEs and things of that nature. I'm not going to get into that because I'm really mad we got rid of the GCO levels. I'll say that one thing for this. There's no glory in being the tallest midget. If you're the tallest midget, you're still a midget. There's no reason why, as a country, we shouldn't have exams that actually compare our students to the rest of the world. Now, I can use the thing about a midget because I'm vertically challenged. I'm not that tall. So I hope I'm not offending anybody in the crowd. The other thing positive on the impact, again, is the real estate market. The real estate guys always talk about second homes for foreigners and things of that nature, and it's a huge boom in the economy. But if you talk about building a knowledge economy where you're bringing in knowledge experts, you're now going to grow that real estate economy like crazy. There's going to be need for commercial real estate, need for residential real estate, need for new construction, need for innovative construction. There's no reason why a country with some of the strongest building codes in the Western Hemisphere can't develop building technology that actually protects data centers from hurricanes. We can do that. We have the people, we have the understanding, we have the expertise, and we can lead the world in that. The other thing, too, from an impact standpoint, again, involves financial services. So when you look at this, there's also an opportunity for everybody in the gamut of the financial services market in order to have a seat at the table. For instance, investment banking. We hear this thing all the time, investment banking, investment banking. Not much is done here in the Bahamas. But if you can create a robust IT industry, a robust knowledge economy, where people are creating technology, where people are actually targeting their products and services, not just in the Bahamas, but globally, you now create an environment where now they need an exit. BISICs can play a role. You don't have to worry about investors coming in and sort of taking over. You can do dual listings. You can make sure that Bahamians have a piece of the pie and they can build their wealth as well. Most people build wealth through the stock market. We don't have a whole lot of choices in the Bahamas. There's no reason why international companies that do business in the Bahamas or local companies that want exits can't be available on the BISICs exchange. That represents an opportunity for us. There's no reason why venture capital funds that want to invest in these companies in the new knowledge economy can't be listed on the BISICs. All of those things are available for wealth building, if you will, as well. And so one of the things I want to say here is that the government will play an extremely important role in this because the government will sell strategy, the government will lay down the policies, the government will create the legislation, and I'll tell you the role of government is to enable business to thrive. Once the government do those things, step back, let the professionals take over, and you will see the industry take off. That's it for me. I was told that I had a 20-minute time limit. I don't know who the timekeeper was. Maybe I kept it in there. So thank you guys very much. I just want to give a quick plug here. I'm CEO of IBS International and the brand new company CBI Mobile Assist. I'm also a partner with Alive. Very, very excited to be a part of that team as well. And so we're looking to bring good things here to the Bahamas in the form of some very innovative mobile applications. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. At 1 minute, I thought he was going to be a politician. He was sounding like a politician. But then he left right in time, so I know he ain't a politician. Just want to acknowledge a few people who I may have missed. Ryan Pinder, the former Minister of Financial Services. I saw him earlier. Verne Grant, former parliamentarian for 8 Mile Rock. And of course, we do have Mark Humes, the current Member of Parliament for Fort Charlotte in New Providence. Thank you guys for being here as well. Now, the other two presenters, I consider this panel all Bahamian because you know Donovan is a Bahamian, Miss Kim is Harbor Island, and of course, Ken has been working in the Bahamas, so he thinks he's Bahamian. So this is a Bahamian panel. The two persons on the stage, we're going to be talking about diversifying the economy with blockchains. We have Kimberly King Burns. She is the managing partner of Convergence Solutions, a Los Angeles-based technology brokerage and B2B marketing consultancy with expertise spanning traditional media, including music, film, cable, television, and advertising, digital media technologies, including blockchain, and she's also from Harbor Island, living in LA. So welcome, Kimberly. Also joining this discussion will be an expert in blockchains and e-government, a member of the FinTech Working Group and Blockchain Resource for the Bahamas Financial Services Board, Ken Bodnar. Thank you. And I'll just call Ken to the stage first, and he'll be followed by Kimberly. This should be a very, very interesting segment, as all of our segments are. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Senator Kwesi Thompson for inviting me here, and Damian Blackburn of Alive for making it possible for me to be here. I'm not very good at speechifying, so I'm just going to give you a bunch of stories. Now, my good friend, the Bush tea lady from Nassau, Mrs. Sweeting, said that to tell stories to Bahamians, you have to stand on the stage, chew tobacco, and spit white lime. I'm not sure what that means, but let's just... And I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Moxie, what he said. I can leave now. And we both chose the theme of imagination without even consulting each other, but that's the key for everything. I present a different view of what's going on because I believe that the Grand Bahama can leapfrog several technology steps using emergent technologies, and one of them is the technologies that both Kimberly and I will speak about. I'd like you to imagine a piece of technology that implemented now, hello, thank you, solves several difficult and long-standing problems that have been a significant drag on the economy of the Bahamas. And it will also kickstart this hub. Everybody in the building knows that we have a problem with illegal immigration. Imagine the Bahamas where the immigration status of any individual can be verified immediately by the authorities with a live mobile phone. It is that easy. It is that easy. Policemen carrying mobile phones can check the immigration status of anybody. We have a problem targeting the right tourists. This morning I tweeted, "Good morning, world. It's a beautiful day in Grand Bahama," with a picture outside my window. And the picture's wonderful. Tourism needs specific targeting. Imagine the Bahamas with e-immigration cards. You know how you have to fill in the papers when you come in there? Getting information. Imagine it recording digitally. Imagine recording it when you sign up for your tour or when you're on the airplane on your mobile device. Imagine using that data. It gives you an opportunity to ask further questions. What do you like? Where do you want to go? Do you want to ride the horses? I don't know if they still have the horse riding in the surf of Grand Bahama here. And using machine learning analytics in blockchain. This is not my idea. This is a Bahamian invention. The inventor is Vincent Vanderpool Wallace. He reached out to me to build this. I've built one. It's not vaporware. It's real, on a real blockchain. And I have a proof of concept. I was going to demonstrate it as part of my speech, but since the computers are all there, anybody who wants to see the demonstration of a real blockchain immigration application that will do all of this thing, I have it. We have a problem with an up-to-date and easy-to-access land registry. I was just reading, yeah, big time. Imagine we're looking up land titles is as easy as a Google search. I just read the problems last week in the Bahamian media about the quieting of titles and the problems of all that. Yes, there's a big, big job to put everything into the blockchain, but once you're there, problem is solved forever. Imagine computerizing, creating a model e-government with common technology platforms across all ministries without spending millions of dollars, using Bahamian talent and emergent technologies. There's absolutely no reason why the government of the day had to pay $10 million for an automobile registry and then is paying another $3 million for procurement. And those two systems don't talk to each other, and they have to spend millions of dollars in software support, where you form a Bahamian technical platform team that not only makes these applications across each ministry, but supports them. That is incredibly... I spent 16 years as a technical architect for the Canadian government. I was the technical architect for the 38th general election. And this is the pattern that we did. You don't pay the offshore companies, you build your own, and that has other benefits. I'll move on later. Imagine the Freedom of Information portal using secure emergent blockchain technology. An earlier speaker said it's the people's time. And imagine a technology to show the people where the people's money is being spent. And you know what? This can be done in a couple of months without millions of dollars. Imagine creating the seeds of a knowledge industry in the Bahamas to overtake the first two pillars of the economy and create high-quality jobs for Bahamians. We have a few structural things to do this. I'd like to just point out to the Port Authority when they're looking at licensees and when they're looking at fees, and the government as well. There's a man named Loom, Jan Loom. He lived on food stamps for 18 months. 18 months later, Google bought his company for $19 billion, and the company is WhatsApp. If that man was going to come to the Grand Bahama Technology Center and try to start it, and he was asked for $1,000 up front here, for a $2,000 front up here, he couldn't do it. We need to absolutely lower the barrier so that people can... Now, the technology that I'm bringing to the table is blockchain. And everyone's heard about blockchain. And blockchain will be a key to the digital transformation of the Bahamas. And it will be a key to building an emergent technology that could be able to Grand Bahama to leapfrog over to traditional steps of creating a tech center and getting right to the core. Oops. This is, everyone says, the future of blockchain. Who understands it? It's my job here to tell you about it. I'll hurry up. This is the 13-word explanation of blockchain. Solving problems you never knew you had with technology you don't understand. To make you understand it, I'm going to explain how blockchain works using people. Let's suppose we have an imaginary country called Nusuvia. Let's suppose the finance minister, Mr. Kaput, at least I think that's how you pronounce KPT, sorry, arranges his finance department such that he has 5 accountants. Each accountant has a copy of the same ledger. He wants to spend $10 million on the space program, and it's done by an agency called the Bahamas Aeronautic and something, BAMSI or something. Too far? Too much? He emails all of those accountants. And he says, I want to spend $10 million. Do I have the money? Each of the accountants goes to their ledger and they look it up. 4 out of the 5 accountants say, yes, we have the money to spend it. And you take a look at Mr. Very there. He's vexed. Maybe BPL turned off his power or he had a fight with the wife or something. But he sends a message saying, we don't have the money. Mr. Kaput takes a look at the 5 emails. 4 of them says we have, yes, we do. And the 5th one says we don't. What's he going to do? He takes a consensus. And the consensus votes we have the money. That's the first step of blockchain, consensus. Second step, it's distributed. Now, BAMSI comes looking for their payment. The payment is made. But you see Miss Block there? Her cousin actually works there, and he said, why don't you submit the invoice again? We'll get double paid. Too close? Once again, Minister Kaput sends out an email saying, have we paid this? 4 out of the 5 say yes. We've paid it. No more money. What's missing from this picture? The chief financial controller. There's no central authority. And you're going to hear these words wherever you read it. They say blockchain disintermediates third parties. That means it operates autonomously. It operates by itself. Now, when you hear about blockchain, you hear about Bitcoin. You hear about cryptocurrency. I want nothing. That's Kimberly's job. I'm going to talk to you about enterprise blockchain that holds data and does e-government jobs and builds a technology industry. Blockchains hold any kind of data, including values, and this is why you can have a Bitcoin cryptocurrency, because it holds a value. And the reason it does that is that if you have an electronic dollar, what's to prevent you from copying it or spending it twice? It's the cryptography in blockchain, it's the coding, I won't even go into it, but it's that prevents it from a double spend and prevents it from duplication. It's distributed, as we saw with all the accountants. It's immutable. You can't rub it out. The only way you can change it is to do a correction. It's transparent. Every block is visible if they're permissioned. So you can trace the entire history of that $10 million all the way through the system. And of course, I mentioned disintermediates third parties. No central controller. Now, I don't want you to, this is something, I'm not going to read this or anything, but here's what I want you to think about blockchain. Blockchain is a brand new technology like the internet. It is as fundamental to human beings as the invention of electricity. Those are serious words, but this is where we are standing on the precipice of a total transformation of society using blockchain. It can be used for votes, any tangible and intangible things. But if you take it a step further, and despite the cryptocurrencies and despite the land registry and despite the immigration status, it's a way of organizing human activity. And this is where it is transformational and it is disruptive. And how? The young entrepreneurs sitting in the audience will figure that out. And they will make billions of dollars doing it. I don't think I need to go into this. Blockchain, the reason why blockchains are like that is because the first block references the second block references the third block. You can't change it. And each block has the information to create the previous blocks. That's all you really need to know. I'm running short of time, so I'm going to hurry this up. This is what I want the minister to know. The creation of a technical platforms group using Bahamians, using the Bahamians you have now, using a technology stack with the emergent technology that I will give to the Bahamas. I've already built it. This is the start of a knowledge industry. I come from Ottawa, Canada. The government started something called the National Research Council. They let 2 contracts, one to a company that I work for called Computing Devices, which is now owned by General Dynamics, and it's another one called Advanced Microsystems Limited. So we build from that basis. It's now called Silicon Valley North. There are 1,700 companies, and there are 86,000 employees. And it all started because you create a group in the knowledge industry, somebody gets a better idea, and you know what you do? You don't slap them down. You give them money and you say, go. How do you start? Like the recipe is, how do we get going? How do we get going? If it were announced that the government of the Bahamas created even one small application, a Freedom of Information application. Remember I told you about spending the people's money? In 3 months at a minimal cost, the news will reverberate around the world. The Bahamas is now seriously into blockchain and seriously into blockchain technology. And the last one references my colleague's invention, Vincent Vanderpool Wallace, of getting immigration online. And the nice part is even if someone's admitted and they don't have a passport or a card, they have a little sticker on the back, instantly, you don't have to round them up, you don't have to do anything, and this is possible now. I have some non-blockchain things that I'd like to bring to the attention of the minister and I'd like to bring to the attention of you people. There are better jobs than tourism jobs. Tourism is the first pillar of the economy. It's an important pillar of the economy. But nobody knows that there are HCM, human contact moderation jobs. I know for a fact a company in Berlin is now looking for 300 people. Most of these jobs go to the Philippines because they speak English and they can tell whether it's a dirty picture or not. Facebook, Instagram, every single major social media uses HCM, human content moderation. You have a room full of people and their job is to look at pictures all day. It pays more than minimum wage. They're on technology platforms, and it brings a heck of a lot of money into the country. The last thing is, Dr. Moxie said we need to bring in people. What if you could fill this hotel with digital nomads? You have no idea of how many there are there. There are literally tens and hundreds of thousands. These are people who work for companies. I worked for a company, I managed 12 programmers, and I lived 1,200 kilometers away. I traveled maybe once every 3 months. These are called digital nomads. The paradigm, the dated paradigm of sun, sand, and sea and casino is really dated in a lot of, people want the experiential things. My daughter wants to go zip lining in the tropical forest canopy. But you know who likes that? Digital nomads. They know that they can get out there and they can kite surf and they can go and they can drink some daiquiris and then they come back and work. And to them, it's nirvana. And you have to capitalize on this market. You can catch it. And this will bring tech tourism. You got a whole bunch of digital nomads. I recently spoke in September 23rd in the Cayman Islands on blockchain technology. And the room was overfilled to capacity because all of the tech people who congregated in the Caribbean filled it. And not only you had them, but you had the banks, you had the financial services group. And the whole concept of being able to work and play without the necessity of, you have to open an American bank account, that has to change. But the coming here and just rotating them through and contributing, literally, they earn their money offshore and they make millions and millions of dollars into the local economy. I was going to demo my live blockchain. I don't have my computer here, but I'll willingly demo it in real life time. I've got it on the Amazon EC2 cloud, a real blockchain if anyone wants to see it, or maybe we'll have a session later on or whatever. But it exists. This is the invention of Vincent Vanderpool Wallace, and it's highly exploitable now. And I'd like to turn over to my long-standing colleague, Kimberly King-Byrne. She's a proud Brylander. She's a venture capitalist. She's a communications guru. She once appeared at NPR radio, I think.
A lot.
No. And anyway,
Wait.
I'll give you Kimberly King Burns. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely wonderful to be here, given the fact that I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. And I'd be very remiss in not acknowledging some of the people in the room that have helped with the Bryland Modem Fund, which has been building community computer centers in the Out Islands since the year 2000. And the Commissioners Cunningham and Roberts and Colebrook are still in here, I believe. And Commissioner Roberts in particular, Harvey Roberts, was the chief counselor on Harbour Island when he and Ivan Johnson helped me produce the very first community computer center in concert with local government. And we've realized back then that being remote was not going to be in any way a disadvantage. And so to be asked to participate in this confab, to talk to the opportunity of developing Grand Bahama as the tech hub for this part of the world is nothing short of amazing. And I'm really glad to be working with the minister, very happy that Alive and Damien Blackburn invited me. Because ironically, we're working on another regional initiative together, Foncose, which is a microfinance foundation in Haiti that we'd like to replicate here, not only for the Haitian diaspora, although obviously that would be its initial launch, but the opportunity to replicate that model here, not only for the Haitian community, but for the diaspora around the country and expats around the world. Am I on? Mine's not in. I don't think my setup's in. It should be the next one up. In the meantime, more than happy to improvise, which is why I have paperwork backup. I am a Bahamian. So as we've noted to date, blockchain is really set to disrupt financial services and community banking and education and beyond. And for community bankers, this is a good thing, as so long we can start thinking about the ways that we can benefit from distributed ledger sooner rather than later. In many respects, this is going to mean pooling our efforts and not suggesting that this is a competitive endeavor anymore. The rise of media technology has been the biggest boon to collaboration the world has seen, and blockchain is set to extend that impact. For example, let's talk about blockchain. Since it's most widely known as the platform to house virtual currencies such as Bitcoin, did anybody see that Bitcoin hit $7,000 per coin this morning? Yeah. Well, Republic of Georgia, for example, voted in 2016, in April, to implement a land ownership registry that relies on blockchain to verify ownership of property. Certainly sounds like something that the Bahamas could use. Now, land registry is a little more formal. Real estate is rather well administered in Abaco and New Providence and Grand Bahama. But we've got commonage assets. We've got generation property assets that, if documented and properly registered, could result in a boon for out-island entrepreneurship as these different committees are allowed to commercialize and develop their properties. I'm working with the Harbour Island Commonage Committee in particular to set it up as a formal, registered, not-for-profit foundation so that it too can attract commercial financing to develop resources like energy farms, waste-to-energy cleanups of our landfill, and distributed energy for the people resident on these properties. To date, they've kind of been casually used for housing and farming, but there's so much of an opportunity, and we've got Bahamian expats around the world that are willing to come back and take care of their generation property and create next generation businesses. Two friends of mine in Los Angeles recently sold their homes in Los Angeles and have moved back to Acklands. Their timing could have been better. They got there just before Hurricane Matthew. So they've gone through 2 storms now, but they've got the attitude that the out islands are going to support technology hubs like Grand Bahama. We have high-speed data lines that dead end into Crooked Island Harbor, which most people in Nassau couldn't find on a map if it, meant to save their life. But part of that high-speed data line means the Crooked Island could make for a phenomenal maritime industry hub. Hatchet Bay in Eleuthera has 5,000 acres that were once used to house the dairy and the chicken farm that was fantastic until the 1970s. That property can never be developed for tourism because sharks have a very active sense memory, and they're still showing up at sunset to feed off the imagined chicken entrails that they're expecting. So, we've got an opportunity there to build wind farms that would support the central aspects of the Bahamas. And I'm certainly old enough to remember when power in the Bahamas was regionalized. We had regional power companies that worked, and they were run by talented Bahamian engineers. The move to centralization hasn't worked out well. And this, again, is where blockchain comes into play. So, let's see. If the Bahamas did something similar with blockchain, okay, we've got banks that could close real estate loans more quickly, clarify cloudy deeds on the spot, the mysterious but perfectly legal quieting of titles and their controversial aftermath would end. Ownership interests in real estate could be verified immediately and with certainty, and Bahamian investment would simply explode around the country. Disruptive innovation and blockchain applications from the telecommunications industry are also able to complement banking as we know today. And I know that you in Grand Bahama and Nassau are beginning to experience with the quality service at the Royal Bank of Canada and Scotiabank that we've been dealing with in the Out Islands for the last 20 years. And that represents another opportunity for a Bahamianization of the industry. And to reassure our financial industry interests in the room, blockchain also serves banks in the realm of Bank Secrecy Act, where a distributed ledger can allow banks to share information on a publicly accessible but secure platform. The thing about telecommunications complementing banking is good in that, of course, consumers can expect better billing and reporting services and greater accuracy in news and information. But the unbanked and the underbanked around the country are benefiting from peer-to-peer payment systems already on their very simple feature-based mobile phones. And we're seeing this being hosted through mesh networks for remittances into Haiti, web shops around the country. The fact is, the underbanked will always find a way to sell their goods and services. And that's an opportunity. Short message service already offers a viable alternative to expensive e-banking solutions and jumpstarts the opportunity to create more nimble community banks. So we're suggesting that we combine the best of two worlds and offer a joint venture telecommunications community banking play to the entire country, resident in one shop. We get rid of the pirates, we transition them once again, we establish storm communication sectors around the country and not just isolated to the main islands. The web shops are seeking legitimacy in a rapidly changing marketplace, but they already host hundreds of locations around the country. On Harbor Island alone, we have 14 web shops. For me to buy coconut flour and coconut oil, I go pay on my vendor's account at Paradise Games. Hey. It's a reality. Why not take advantage? So given the informal network of these built-in centers, we've got reading rooms, we've got libraries, we've got, again, the announced community computer centers. This is the time now to craft that one-stop shop. And since we're talking about total financial empowerment, which is what today's presentation is really all about, what we'd like to do is suggest that not only can we power payments Grameen style, as we've seen throughout the rest of the Caribbean, but we're going to propose a conch coin that's not going to cost $7,000 like Bitcoin. Conch coins to be decided, but we're thinking $50 so that the average Bahamian can afford to participate. We need the Bahamian dollars to operate this proposed tech hub in Grand Bahama. We can then use the money for local costs, and then these Bahamian investors not only own equity in the companies in which they've invested, but they can sell these coins on the world exchanges for real currency, even Bitcoin. And once, well and truly Bahamians can join the e-commerce revolution that's been underway since I first made this pitch, the Ministry of Finance in 1999. Patience. So, how it would work, and I'm sorry that I don't have a presentation because it was really pretty. So say the new Grand Bahama Tech Hub offers 500,000 coins at $50 a piece. And Bahamian expats and Bahamian locals are enthusiastically investing because it's going to provide Bahamian equity. We use these proceeds to build the tech incubator in Grand Bahama. We rent the building, we provide the Wi-Fi, we fund a few startups for 3 months, and we take equity in the startups, we being the greater good here. And even if we just launch a few of these startups, we're going to have enough money to operate, and anyone who buys a coin gets the opportunity to pitch to participate in the incubator. We evaluate the pitches for viability, the tech hub takes equity, and it becomes a self-sustaining facility. The pool of coins becomes valuable because the value of these coins will be tied to a fund that holds our equity from the startups, and they can then be speculated in the secondary market, all perfectly legally. I think to summarize, I think you've gotten the idea that we're proposing here. Again, I'm seconding my prior two presenters. We're taking a think of a world approach. Imagine the opportunities. The key to grabbing attention and getting a commitment to build a trial for this tech hub and for a coin starts with providing banking services to the many unbanked in small communities, providing instantly verifiable and clear title to land, enabling rapid and accurate closing of legal contracts, and the power to use a device that we almost all have, a smartphone. There have historically been big problems in the Bahamas that have defied solutions. But suddenly, as I said earlier, being in a remote region of the Bahamas is not one of them. Confusion of generation land could be conveniently eliminated, be monetized, be made immediately valuable, and jumpstart an entire middle class of Bahamian entrepreneurs. More real estate transactions. More real estate people will have transactions. Lawyers are going to have more work with less effort. The government's going to be getting more taxes from these real estate transactions. And 95% of the Bahamas is going to be brought into view for all to see and appreciate. I look forward to energy farms and Acklands. There's no reason why we can't revive Inagua as a 100-megawatt alternative energy farm that sends electricity and energy into Cuba. We've got opportunities for reverse osmosis, air-to-water condensation campaigns in Acklands that would feed not only any proposed development in Mayaguana, but the rest of the central Bahamas. Now, I think, in conclusion, and thank you for your patience with my notes, just glad I had them. We've given examples of places of where what we are advocating is already working, and so you can be assured that this Grand Bahama Technology Hub, as envisioned, is going to be no one's guinea pig. We're simply the ones that are recognizing that the solutions to these problems have far-reaching applications throughout the Bahamas, and that's all that's really needed to begin a globally successful technology business right here. And again, I would like to thank Vincent van der Poel Wallace and Ken Bodner for helping us flesh out the coin concept. And we look forward to having you join us on this adventure. Thank you. Hello for bag. Ali Mather Presenti. Thank you very much.
That was so wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. As you can see, we are at 11:50, and to stay on time and break for lunch, we need to be done by 12:50. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Parliamentary Secretary and Member of Parliament for Central Grand Bahama, Iram Lewis, who will facilitate our next segment. It's been a pleasure to be with you for the first half of this session. I'll see you a little later on in the afternoon, so thank you for your attention and time while I served as your moderator. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, morning still. I am Iram. I am an architect. I just found out that I was not a solution architect. Okay, thank you very much. I am taller than the tallest midget in the house. Right, Minister? And my wife said to me, I am smart and I am good looking. So I'm a lot of things. So give me a round of applause for all of that. Welcome to all to the wonderful city of Freeport, the island where God chose to have me use as my birthplace. And I'm glad the minister made a quote from Jeremiah this morning. So all those things that he was talking about, he was speaking about me. And of course, some of you. I would like to say that Grand Bahama has evolved tremendously over time. We have evolved from being a pine forest to the magic city, and now we are the technology swirl on the board. To those of you who didn't recognize it, that is Grand Bahama. And, we have come a very long way. Any one of you could tell me what your first telephone was? That's your important technology is. Kay, do you remember your first telephone? She said a big brick with the pullout. Mr. Moore, you remember your first telephone? All right. My first, Mark Hume saying his first one was a rotary dial. Well, my first telephone was 2 peaches can and a ball of cotton line. We punched a hole in the peaches can, we fed the cotton line through it, put a knot on it, you spoke through one side, the person listened, and that was technology. And then we improved on that technology. How? We advanced our cabling system. We've got the fishing nylon line, and that was a better conductor. So we were advancing. So again, it shows how important technology is. I now have 5 limbs. I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a cell phone. I now have 2 brains. One in here, in my skull, and the second brain, a smartphone. So I'm just saying how important, and through this technology, we've advanced all of our courses tremendously. I'm here to facilitate some wonderful presenters this morning, and I'm going to invite them to join me on the stage. We have, first of all, from Itable Smart Solution, we have Sebastian Tickle. Mr. Tickle, can you please join me on the stage? Come on, bring him up. Thank you very much. Next we have Dr. Godwin Higgs. Our very own Dr. Godwin Higgs. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Godwin Higgs left Silicon Beach of the Bahamas and went to Silicon Valley. And he's going to come back now and turn us into Silicon Country. Thank you very much. We next have from Google. I call them the international spies. When I go to Google Earth, I can find you wherever you are in real time. So we're going to invite Christy Powell from Google to also join us on stage. Come on, welcome Christy to the... And also joining us from Microsoft, we have Xerxes Bihari. Come on, welcome Come on, give him a real Grand Bahama welcome. Now, Derek King beat me to the deal this morning and he won the live smartphone. But I'm sure my good friend Damien Blackburn, you have one or two more. So, Damien, you can now enter the stage with my alive phone. So please, welcome Damien Blackburn from Alive. And of course, the man that light us all up. The power man, they call him the power man. We're going to invite the CEO of Grand Bahama Power Company, Mr. Archie Collins, to the stage. Welcome, Archie. And ladies and gentlemen, as I spoke about my, all of the I ams that I am, I will invite each one of you to, likewise, briefly come to the mic and introduce yourself and just say what you are all about. So first of all, we're going to welcome Sebastian to the mic. Come on, welcome him.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here this morning in Freeport, Grand Bahama Island. My name is Sebastian Tickle. I'm Vice President for Business Development and Operations for ITEL BPO Smart Solutions. ITEL BPO Smart Solutions is a contact center nearshore vendor company, which is headquartered in Jamaica with offices in Freeport, Grand Bahamas. We have offices in Montego Bay, Kingston, Freeport, Grand Bahamas, and also in Tampa, Florida. Our remit in the industry is to provide outsourced contact center services to companies which choose to send us their business to process. It's mostly inbound customer care and sales calls, but we also do outbound work. We do e-chat services, search engine optimization support, PPC marketing, and a number of other things, including back office work for companies which choose to outsource their services to us. We operate in most verticals, in most industry verticals, including travel and leisure, utilities, medical billing, retail, and a few others. And our business is really to provide a one-stop shop, first call resolution type of service to our clients within an environment where our clients feel that we're really an annex operation to their own. We've chosen Freeport, Grand Bahama Island as one of our destinations because we feel that this location in the English-speaking Caribbean has tremendous potential for growth. And as the industry itself continues to expand in terms of Fortune 100 companies deciding to send their services to nearshore locations, there's obviously a greater demand for new locations apart from the traditional ones which already exist. So for us coming to Freeport 3 years ago has been a tremendous experience, and we very much feel that we're the poster child, or the pioneers, if you will, of the nearshore outsourcing industry in the Bahamas, as represented here in Freeport, Grand Bahamas. It's a great pleasure to be here, a great honor, and very much looking forward to the panel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sebastian. And this segment here, we are speaking about logistics, infrastructure, and policy. And we're going to have next our homegrown Dr. Higgs, who would also come. And he's here today, who's also going to come and introduce himself and give us an overview.
It's a pleasure to be here. So to everyone here, it's a pleasure to be here. Most of you probably know me growing up, and it's amazing. So today, as I think back to sort of the stories that I've had and the developments that I've had along the way, it's been a crazy journey, but the journey's not done. If I look back to sort of even growing up, my parents' family, and sort of the things that they have enabled us to do just by teaching us the right skill sets, that's some of the things that I want to be able to share with you today while over the various talks that I have. But I want to fast forward just a little bit to tell you a little bit about my background and what I've been doing in Silicon Valley. So I've been there now in and out for about the better part of 10 years, and where I'm currently at, I'm at a company where I get the opportunity to see startup development. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, when we talk about what it's like to take an idea from the very beginning into something that's much bigger, that's what happens in the Valley. It happens a lot. So I've been fortunate enough to get a lot of that experience out there, and I'm happy to talk about some of that today. So, thanks.
All right, Doc. Thank you very much. Now we're going to have the power man, Mr. Archie Collins, come and also give us an overview.
Good morning. My name is Archie Collins, President and CEO of Grand Bahama Power. And again, like other speakers who have been before me, certainly delighted to have the opportunity to participate here today. For those of you who don't know my story, I arrived in Grand Bahama about 14 months ago, roughly 1 week before Hurricane Matthew arrived in Grand Bahama. And obviously it was a little bit of a trial by fire trying to get the electricity system rebuilt in the aftermath. In addition to being the President and CEO of Grand Bahama Power, I also serve as the President of Emera Caribbean, which is the holding company that would manage our investments not only in Grand Bahama, but also in Barbados, where we own the electric utility in Barbados, in Dominica, where we own 52% of that utility, and in St. Lucia, where Emera is 20% owner of that the utility in St. Lucia. Clearly, for anybody who's paid attention to hurricane season this year, you would know that while here in Grand Bahama we were by and large spared from any significant storms, certainly nothing to the extent of Matthew in 2016, the island of Dominica was not so fortunate, and Maria inflicted significant damage on the island of Dominica when it passed over on September 19th. And so that rebuild effort that's going on in Dominica is something that certainly is consuming a significant percentage of my time. And the reason I'm raising that issue is because the electricity system has been so devastated. In fact, the entire island has been so devastated in Dominica that it's giving the island an opportunity to utilize technology to what we call in Domlec and in Emera, build back better. We're using it as an opportunity to rebuild that electricity system significantly differently than the old paradigm of centralized generation and long radial transmission and distribution runs. And anyway, I'll be happy to share some of that thinking and the way that Emera is thinking about technology and Grand Bahama Power a little bit later. So again, thank you very much. Looking forward to the next couple of days. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Archie. Now we're going to welcome the young man to the stage who's going to bring my live phone. Richard, can you please come?
Thank you, Aaron. I'm the guy that gets the party started. When I was reflecting there on what I was going to say and thinking about what I've done in my life so far, basically I've started parties. I was privileged to be asked to join the founding management team of Virgin Mobile in the UK, which became a worldwide brand and revolutionized the mobile industry. Worked with Richard Branson, who is an amazing entrepreneur, learned a lot from him. I was then given the privilege to come and live in Kingston, Jamaica, 10 years ago. And I was the regional CEO of Digicel, another challenger led by another visionary and entrepreneur in the region, an Irish entrepreneur called Dennis O'Brien. I spent a lot of time running around 15 islands, every point of paradise from Curacao to Bermuda. It was an amazing experience. Then, having started those parties, particularly a big one in the British Virgin Islands, with one of my colleagues here, the chairman decided, no more parties, you're going to Tegucigalpa, Honduras. I went there, had a marvelous time, learned Spanish, and then I ended up on the beachhead of Haiti. and that changes you forever. I was there really. I was the CEO of Digicel, Digicel's largest business, but I spent most of my time seeking out opportunity to help that country. The first thing we had to do was build a hotel so that international investors could be brought in to look at opportunities. We built the Marriott Hotel in Port-au-Prince. There's no banking system in Haiti that works for the majority of people there. I led a revolution which has now become the Moncash mobile money solution in Haiti, has nearly 1 million users, and is the largest mobile money deployment in the Caribbean and Central America. I was asked to get involved with a microfinance institution in Haiti that had been founded by a Catholic priest called Father Joseph Philippe. I'm proud to chair that institution. We lend over $30 million a year to women's solidarity groups who create micro businesses in Haiti. So if you think the challenge is tough in Grand Bahama right now, trust me, look for the opportunities, seek them out, focus on them, and make this place great. It's been an absolute privilege over the last year, and it is our anniversary on Saturday, to lead the Alive team. We've got that party started. We ask you all to join the party with Minister Thompson now and create a technology hub here in Grand Bahama. I will bring my own personal expertise. I have worked in Silicon Valley immediately before here, and I am an angel investor in ad tech and fintech solutions. So thank you very much, Grand Bahama, and the Bahamas more generally, for allowing me to come here to do this role. It's a real privilege.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Damien. And what Damien said is literally true. I met Damien for the first time at Barris Hammond concert, and he did get the party started. All right, coming up next, we're going to have from Microsoft. Please welcome Mr. Bihari. We're going to save the ladies for last.
Hey, good morning. So my name is Zirks Bihari. I'm a Trini. From a very young age, I wanted to be a magician. The idea of being able to make something out of nothing intrigued me. My parents, however, thought that that wasn't a viable career path. But it led me to start playing with databases and my computer. And at the age of 16, I was able to create my own business in Trinidad, selling databases to insurance agents. And that summer, I realized I was a magician. I just made something out of nothing. That then took me to pursue my education in computer engineering. And right out of college, Microsoft hired me. And there, I worked as a program manager. For those of you who don't know, a program manager basically is someone who gets handed down a vision. They said, we want you to make blah. And then it's my job to go figure out how to go do that. So I interface with the developers, the writers, marketing, legal, you name it. I am trying to coordinate all those teams and figure out how do we deliver something on schedule that meets everyone's requirements. I am really passionate about technology, and I'm really passionate about trying to move the Caribbean forward using technology. And today I hope to share some of my points of view with you on how we could do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bihari. I really feel empowered being here today. And looking at your faces, I do believe that a lot of you, or most of you, you're very happy that you registered and you're here today because this is a brand new world and the opportunities are endless. We have an international all-star panel here, and so far all of the presentation has been wonderful. But I must say, I am from Grand Bahama, I am Bahamian, and oftentimes we overlook our very own. And looking at the presentation made by our Bahamians on the panel today, Dr. Moxie, Ken, Kimberly, Dr. Higson, I can certainly say that we are indeed a force to be reckoned with. And even our president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, he had a little bit of technological challenges this morning. However, he was able to figure it out. And that's what we're all about, figuring out issues. We have also on the stage another all-star, a Bahamian. Yes, she's a Bahamian. I deliberately left her for the last. We're going to invite Christy now from Google to come and make a basic introduction.
Very impressive. Wow, I hope I have something interesting to say now. So good morning. Actually afternoon. Good afternoon, Freeport. So I'm from Nassau, Bahamas. Born and raised in the Bahamas. Most people don't believe that. And I'm very proud to be here today. So my background, Zerks and I actually went to university together. So he studied computer engineering. I have a bachelor's and a master's in electrical engineering. And out of university, I was recruited by Goldman Sachs in New York City, and I worked as an associate in their engineering division. So at Goldman Sachs, I was responsible for new developments. So my team was really responsible for figuring out whether or not we wanted to go with HP or Dell, figuring out whether or not we wanted to rev to a new operating system. And at the time, in 2008, virtualization was really big, so my team was instrumental in taking the firm from hardware servers into virtualized servers, and then obviously making money was at the core, so high frequency trading became very, very important. I'm an avid snowboarder, so at some point I injured myself and I was home and Google called and I answered. 3 years ago I started working at the firm. I am a senior technical solutions consultant for Google. How many of you shop online? Every hand should go up. So those ads that follow you around, my team makes that happen, essentially is what I do. You can thank me. So in my spare time, like I mentioned, I'm very, very passionate about technology. I'm very passionate about giving back. I have been appointed by the mayor of Jersey City, newly reelected again. And I serve on the board of directors, the board of trustees for the Jersey City Free Public Library, and I'm also very passionate about STEM, and I'm chairman of the board of directors for a nonprofit in Jersey City as well, Ionic 6 Inc. And then lastly, I'm very humbled by everyone who's on the panel. I'm very grateful that all of you have actually showed up to attend the Tech Summit. Senator Thompson, I'm 100% looking forward, sir, to seeing what you and your team do over the next 4 to 5 years in revolutionizing the country and taking it forward.
All right. Come on, give a big round of applause for that. All right, thank you very much. We have approximately 35 minutes left in this segment of the program. I'll be talking about developing Grand Bahama as the technology hub, talking about logistics, infrastructure, and policy. Now, Sebastian, from your perspective, what do we really need from a logistical standpoint to ensure that Grand Bahamas develop as this technology hub that we're envisioning?
Well, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the tremendous role that the GBP has played in enabling us to set up in Freeport, Grand Bahamas, as facilitators and as an organization that has supported us all along. Our acknowledgement is very sincere. In terms of what is needed, I would really speak from a perspective of the business processing outsourcing industry, which is where large organizations make decisions as to where the next destination is going to be. So it's not necessarily just from the standpoint of ITEL BPO, but really from a standpoint of the industry being the client base. The industry has obviously changed and it keeps evolving. And whereas in the past the industry would have probably been driven mostly by cost, where companies would first go to India and then subsequently to the Philippines. Clearly, once those companies come from North America, from the US and from Canada, there's a lot of travel involved, there's a lot of distance, there's a lot of time zone differences involved, which play an important role. And as the industry's evolved, offshore or offshore outsourcing has really morphed into nearshore, where nearshore has become increasingly attractive. I would say that over the past 20 years, nearshore in terms of North America and the English-speaking Caribbean, and also the setting of Central America in terms of Spanish-speaking countries, has become an increasingly attractive proposition, simply because it's close. It's often in the same time zone. The executives and the training managers and the ops managers traveling back and forth between the large corporations in the US to their nearshore centers becomes a lot easier. And also, there's the question of cultural affinity, native English-speaking population, etc. So all of these factors have played very heavily in the industry coming much closer in terms of North America to this region. So I would say that whereas the industry was probably first and chiefly and very much driven by cost in the past, today it is driven by a blend of, obviously cost plays a central role, but it's driven by a blend of trust and desire. In other words, the trust factor in a company deciding and selecting a destination in terms of their outsourced initiatives is huge, and as is the desire. In other words, how comfortable do the executives of that organization who make such a decision feel with the destination that they're sending their work to? And that becomes a very personal decision, and it plays a huge part, which is not always weighed down by cost. So as we look at the English-speaking Caribbean and we consider those factors which cause business to come in our direction, we obviously have to take the trust factor, the cost factor, the desire factor very seriously. In terms of Freeport, Grand Bahama Island, it is equally relevant. And I think as a destination, the attractiveness as a destination is undeniable. The workforce in Freeport, Grand Bahamas is ideally suited for this type of industry, for this type of business. The presentation, the enthusiasm, and the cultural affinity, which is represented by every single agent I've seen in Freeport, does absolute marvels with the market. So there's no question. The very close proximity to the US is obviously very attractive because it also underpins the cultural affinity, which is very helpful, but it also makes travel for US executives or Canadian executives very, very easy to this region. As it was pointed out several times today, 68 miles to the US mainland, 27 minutes from Miami International Airport to Freeport. I mean, that's not near shore, that's ultra near shore. And the reality is that there is no other destination on the planet which is offshore, literally, and which is that close to the US. And that destination is Freeport, Grand Bahama Island. Yeah, I'll continue. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. And I was just advised that everyone have their headpiece. We did a mic check. Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
All right. Oh, we all on. This is technology. We up to speed. Now, Dr. Higgs, you left the wonderful beaches of the Bahamas and you went all the way to Silicon Valley. And based on your experience, how practical, from a logistical standpoint, is it for us to really realize the dream of being the technology hub that we are now envisioning?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just one thing I want to correct in there. I was in Michigan before I went to California.
Okay.
So it's very cold, very cold. But going back to your question about logistics, and I also want to tie in infrastructure in there, if I may, as well.
Sure.
When I think about just sort of my experiences there in the Valley, and I think about sort of what it's like to be able to create something and have it grow from a very early young stage to something that's bigger. And the way in which the world is evolving now, particularly as it relates to technology, you'd be surprised to know how little of, or how little things you need in order to be able to get to prove certain milestones that can get you to the next level. And let me clarify what I mean by that. If we think of, let's say, the Google boys, as they like to call them, they started at Stanford, right? They started in a dorm room at Stanford with, they pretty much only had, access to high-speed Wi-Fi, right. And that's pretty much all that they needed, right? If we think of a lot of the other things from social media, from Twitter to Snap, and a lot of these other companies, when they're in this sort of a tech space, there isn't really a big need for a lot of land. The needs are relatively simple, reliable internet and good power, and really from there, you can continue to build from there until you prove your points, and then that's when you start to have bigger needs, per se. So when we think back to sort of Grand Bahama and what that means from a logistics and infrastructure standpoint, we have already in place some of those things
right.
that really just need to be tapped into to unlock them. And that way, we'd have sort of the core competencies that would be needed to start up something like this.
Wonderful.
So when I think of the typical startup example, I think of someone who's in a garage, who they're probably in their parents' garage and they're building their company that way, right? How cool would it be for you to do that right here, and you're looking out on the beach every day, starting your company? So when you're in that space, the reality is it doesn't take at least a whole lot of infrastructure per se if you're in sort of that pure tech space. Hardware, slightly different story, but pure tech where it's mostly internet driven, it's doesn't require a whole lot.
Excellent. All right. I feel kind of bad right now that you all have your headsets on, and I'm the facilitator, and I don't have one. So I'll just put on my phone headset, just to look techno-savvy, so I can fit in, I can blend in with them. Thank you very much, Dr. Higgs, and it speaks to the fact that, y'all laughing at me. Do I look fit for the job now? Albert Einstein said that the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. And you just spoke to that. You can start from your garage or wherever, and the sky is the limit. Richard, I'm sorry, Archie. The president spoke about the smart meters, the smart city of Freeport, the smart meter. You're the CEO of Grand Bahama Power Company. Bearing in mind the smart city approach, from your perspective, logistically, and from policy position, how do you see us moving forward with this initiative?
Can you hear me okay? So I guess, I think first of all, the point I'd like to make is that the traditional model, the model on how electricity has been generated and distributed and used by customers really hasn't changed for about the past 100 years. Not since Thomas Edison first invented alternating current. It's really been the model we have today, same model that's always existed. And that is centralized generation, like we would have in Grand Bahama, where you have a power plant down at the west end of the island, down around Peel Street, and the West Sunrise plant, and then long run, many poles, here in Grand Bahama, 25,000 poles that are moving power all around the island, and people using it, and having limited ability to control how they use it, not a lot of information on their habits or how they could better manage their habits or better manage their consumption or their power bill. And all of that is changing. That whole traditional model is changing, and it's changing really, really quickly. And certainly for anyone who's living in California, you're really on top of how that model, that traditional paradigm is changing. And in Grand Bahama, certainly within Emera, we are embracing the change. It would be foolish for utilities to sort of hang on to that old model and hope that it will never change, because what's happening in the power industry is very analogous to what happened in the telephone industry. Right. That Minister Lewis spoke about earlier on, that there was a time when we all had landlines. My first telephone was a rotary phone, and we had a what did they used to call it? You had multiple people party lines, they called it. I don't know if you know what party lines. So in our home was 2 long rings. We knew if it was 2 long rings, we had to pick it up. When you picked up the phone, you knew that all your neighbors were listening to the entire conversation. And look how far we've come. Right now, everybody now has a cell phone. That same journey that has happened in the telecommunications industry is going to happen in the power industry. Emera really believes that. The technology is going to disrupt the traditional model. And so you're beginning to see that now, more of a move towards distributed generation, not centralized generation. Certainly a lot of renewable generation, a lot of storage, people having storage in their own home, people having storage in electric cars. And so, smart meters, advanced meters, smart grid, all of these things together are what ultimately constitutes this smart city philosophy. And, in Grand Bahama, at Grand Bahama Power, we are in the early stages of, bringing energy storage to the island, something that we didn't really have the option to do it cost effectively 10 years ago, but we now are well on our way to having large-scale storage that will have the effect of improving reliability, displacing thermal generation, becomes an enabler for renewable investment, and it smooths out the frequency issue that we have here in Grand Bahama. So well on our way in that regard. As Minister Lewis would know, we have some pretty exciting, innovative things that we're doing over on the small island of Waterkey. Partnering with Tesla and local solar developers to install a solar array on the island of Waterkey and ultimately move that island towards 100% renewable is really our vision over in Waterkey. So that's a little bit of a test bed, a little bit of a test that we're doing in Waterkey to ultimately begin doing more. So the whole concept of the smart city is real. As a power company, we are embracing it. It starts with the storage. We're moving into advanced metering. One of our local engineers who's present here today is leading an AMI investment where we intend to roll out smart meters all across Grand Bahama. And the mesh that's associated with that, you just can begin to build on it, and it becomes the bones of the smart city. So we are on our way. It's just a matter of time before these sort of cutting-edge technologies that form the foundation of the smart city will be right here in Freeport and in Grand Bahama.
All right, excellent. Can you hear me? Am I on? Hey, I've come a long way from the peaches can, right? I'm now wireless. Not Oprah Winfrey now. I feel like Michael Strahan, a real talk show host. Damien, your perspective from the logistical standpoint, and also what infrastructure that we would need also to make this work.
Well, it's interesting. I was just listening to some of the answers there. I think there's a tendency to focus on what we don't have. Every entrepreneur who's ever lived focuses on not what they've not got now, but where they're going to be in the future. Yeah? To me, and the first time I met Minister Thompson discussing this in the summer, we had a great 2 or 3 hours. We've got the same kind of energy. And Ian Roll, the first time I met him 18 months ago. You've got everything. Look at the enthusiasm in the room.
Yes.
Right? That's the first thing, yeah. We've got great infrastructure here in Grand Bahama. You've now got a world-class LTE network. Didn't exist a year ago. The reliability that my team has got. But just think about that as a story for a minute. And this is not an absolute plug. On the 1st of July 2016, I was handed a license by Stephen Burrow at Urca. I didn't have a team. I didn't even have an office. I didn't have funds. I was given some money. I wasn't given enough money. There were so many things I could have sat there and used as an excuse not to do what we've done, but I didn't allow it to happen. I didn't allow any excuse. If somebody got in the way, my team or I got them out of the way. Because we're on a mission in Alive to bring world-class LTE network service to every Bahamian, whether they're in Inagua or in Grand Bahama. And that's what we've done. And lots of people didn't believe us at the beginning. Lots of great Bahamians joined me on that mission. They took huge risks with their careers, with their reputations, to follow this mad Yorkshireman who'd arrived in the Bahamas, washed up on the beach. Yeah. And that is the story of what needs to happen next from this summit. People need to go out there and not focus on what we haven't got. You don't, you know, the guys in the garage, the Google guys, they didn't have it, but they had a dream of what they were going to do. And look what happened. They built companies that employ great Caribbean nationals. So don't focus on what you don't have. Think about what you've got. You've got a low-tax environment, even a no-tax environment. I think Donovan there was bidding for some corporation tax. I didn't know that existed in the Bahamas, Donovan. I don't know if I agreed with that. There's no tax. There's a no-tax environment. You know, my friend here who's living in Silicon Valley, I've worked in Silicon Valley. It's one of the most frustrating places I have actually been to build a business or live. Rents are high. There's no hotel rooms. We have a hotel here, ready, right? There's no hotel rooms in Silicon Valley. You try and book one, and if you get one, they're $400 a night. Yeah. Okay. It's difficult for entrepreneurs to find somewhere to rent near where they're gonna set up their first office. Commercial real estate is through the roof, yeah, in terms of pricing. All of that spare capacity is here in Grand Bahama. Can be put to work tomorrow if the people with the hands on the rudder just make a few right decisions. There is one issue to solve if you're going to attract international companies. I think blockchain-backed ventures have had about $8 billion invested into them in the last 4 months alone. This could be the center for blockchain, the stuff these guys talked about. You have to solve the immigration issue. Visas need to be issued. If that's going to be the strategy, right? Because those people will need to get... Now, it's brilliant time to solve it because Donald Trump's doing the opposite, right? He stopped the H-1B visa scheme that tens of thousands of Indians in Silicon Valley came to help build Silicon Valley, and he's stopping it. Little opportunity there, Minister. Like, seize the day from tomorrow and make these things happen. Don't blame what you haven't got.
This will be my first time saying thank you to Donald Trump.
He's a friend as well.
Absolutely. Christy.
Tough question. So honestly, Zerks and I participated in a talk show that was streaming live outside, and one of the moderators made a joke and said that in Freeport, there's a mantra right now that says, buy local, from Bahamians, etc. You guys are aware of that, right? Okay. I've listened over the last year and a half to a lot of great businessmen and entrepreneurs in the Bahamas and talk about the technology that they're using and leveraging inside their businesses. And my first question to them always is, the technology that you built, who built it? The code that was written, who wrote it?
Yes.
And none of those answers were ever a Bahamian. So to the youngsters back in the room, an age-old question is always, why don't you Bahamian return home? to come and work? And the answer is exactly the same as the question that I just asked, which is you're not giving Bahamians an opportunity to do it. So you're not investing in your own. So you want me to buy local. You're breeding local, but you're not giving the local the opportunity to do it. So there's someone in the back there raising their hand. That's gospel. That's true.
Yes.
So you have software developers who have the talent. All of the problems that we're trying to solve, I agree with you. We shouldn't focus on what we don't have. We should focus on what we do have, because we do have the infrastructure. We do have great networks. We do have fiber. So connectivity is not the issue. The problems that we're trying to solve are not new. They've been solved all over the world, time and time again. What we're lacking is foresight. I shared with Senator Thompson when we had an opportunity to chat outside. I've seen it, you know, we talk about government after government. There's very little bipartisanship in the Bahamas. That's a different story altogether. Most of the government offices are head and led by lawyers. I have no disrespect for lawyers. I have lots of them in my family. They can cite articles from here, and I would have no idea what it is that they're saying. I would not be able to tell my head from my tail.
Right.
As a technologist and as an engineer, I can talk to them about the same thing, and they too will not be able to tell their head from their tail. So I can sell them anything. My point is, people in government and in enterprise need to surround themselves with people who have engineering degrees, and there are lots of...
And architects.
So, in those moments when they're trying to figure out how am I going to get from point A to point C, they're not being misguided. They know clearly what it is that they're trying to do, and by reinvesting in your own people, I can guarantee you your money will stay in this country and circulate. So, as we think about the economy and trying to grow it, why would you invest in me if I was a foreigner when I know I'm only going to take my money outside of the country?
All right, come on.
We need foreign investment. I worked for Goldman Sachs. I understand foreign investment and what it does, but what I'm trying to get everyone in this room to understand is that those young children in the back there need an opportunity. They need a chance. I'm looking to you. You mentioned up there that you were an investor in ad tech and fintech. I'm sure there's someone in this audience who's interested or wants to start their own company, and they're looking to you now to invest, because that's not a mindset that most Bahamians have.
I've been scouting while I've been here, trust me.
So it's important for those like Mr. Blackburn and other people in the audience who have access to capital to lend this capital, to take a chance.
You're right.
On that risk.
You're absolutely right. Wonderful.
But that's just my opinion.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion.
You know, if I was Oprah Winfrey right now, I would say girl power. But I'm not. So I just say brain power. Our good neighbor from Trinidad.
What she said. But seriously, I mean, what she did say was serious. One of my current projects that I work on is HoloLens. It's the world's first self-contained holographic computer.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's, you know, science fiction, science fact sort of stuff. And this is a really hard project. You know, it spans software teams and hardware teams, and multiple software teams and multiple hardware teams. So really hard, but we don't shy away from hard problems. The Bahama wanting to become a tech hub is a hard problem. But, you know, one of the things when I reflect, you know, one of the things that made us successful as a team is that we had clear guidance and accountability. In order for you to be a tech hub, you need academia churning out a workforce that is skilled. Then you need, as Christy said, you need private sector to commit to using local talent and using that local workforce. Then you need the government paving the way, making policies.
Policy.
Yeah, exactly. And so you need all three entities working in concert. You can't have one do anything without the other.
You're right.
And so, you know, when I look back, you know, at our success, you know, multiple software, hardware teams, etc. But there needs to be a team that's, you know, guiding and holding those entities accountable for putting these things in place in order to become a tech hub. And so, you know, in terms of logistics, I think there needs to be a team that's there to provide guidance and accountability.
Excellent, excellent. We have We have approximately 7 minutes left in this segment, and oftentimes we talk about our country being brain drained. And there were a few of us who returned home, like Senator Kay and Mark Humes, our Minister of State, and several of us in the audience made a determination to come back home to build our country. We experienced a lot of frustration. And I was offered a top job upon graduation from college, but I decided I wanted to come home. And it's very frustrating. But I'm determined to stay here and to work to build a better country. We have two prominent, two very smart Bahamians sitting on the stage, speaking of their experiences outside of the country. Christy, very briefly, and Dr. Hicks, very briefly, you tell us as the government, what would it take to get someone like you to return home to help us to build this country with the technology of? And see, there's the minister. Put us on the spot. Yes, I know, besides money. Go right ahead.
I'm up first.
Yes, you go first.
All right. So when I think about the experiences that I've had, it's not always been rosy, right? There've been a lot of frustrations and challenges as well. And so even as someone being abroad, you sort of face these challenges. So if I were to think about what it would look like for me to be here in an environment like Grand Bahama, that's a loaded question. There's a lot on the table. There's a lot of things that I look for, and there are a lot of things that I consider. I love Grand Bahama. I'm here all the time. My parents are still here, and we talk a lot about what it's like to be in Grand Bahama. Even though I'm not here, I don't want to make it seem as though I'm disconnected from Grand Bahama. So just the other week, my cousins and I were on the phone and we were talking about some business development and business opportunities. And even yesterday after dinner, I was having another conversation with a colleague of mine. And even abroad, I'm still being able to plug in to the network to feel as though I'm still contributing. So in that way, that's sort of my opportunity to help give back until such a point should it come that I'm back here in Grand Bahama sort of permanently. But I was discussing earlier with some of my colleagues here on stage about what that sort of looks like. And there are certain things that make you feel a little bit more comfortable and reassuring where we may be in the US. And some of those things, sure, they might be like compensation, but more so it's just, I would say, reinforcement and also sort of accountability that the dreams that you set in place, they can be realized, they can be materialized. Because I'm sure you've experienced some of the frustration yourself in terms of having ideas that you would want to execute on and then being able to give up something else that you already feel can give you some comfort and some level of assurance in hopes and anticipation of what you would be able to get here. And I think really what we're looking for is we're just looking for a little bit more reassurance and a little bit more comfort such that we don't feel as though we're leaving something on the table to make that switch. What we really want to feel as though we have a golden opportunity and we're here to seize it.
Wonderful.
So the opportunity cost of returning home is certainly high, but I'm sure all of you remember the cartoon Pinky and the Brain. I swear to you, every morning I wake up and I feel like I can change the world.
Change the world, yes.
What would it take for Christy to return home? An investor and the government, so public as well as enterprise, to believe in an idea that I have and to support me through it. And I have tons of ideas. I'm sure they're great. I'm sure they're revolutionary. But the lack of support is what keeps me working at Google and Microsoft and Goldman Sachs. That's what it is.
Sebastian?
If I may, I'd like to also make a comment. Damien and Christy actually, I think, hit the nail on the head. in terms, we have everything that's needed here. In real terms, nothing really needs to be added. There's technology, there's resilience, there's the workforce, either in actual terms or potentially from other parts of the Bahamas or from overseas. There's the proximity, everything is here to make it work. And I think the central component here, to your question, at the end of the day, it's economic activity. It begets itself and it grows, it becomes dynamic. Right. And once the economic activity here becomes more and more vibrant, that in of itself becomes exponential and then grows in every direction, and everyone comes home and everything grows. Now, an example from the perspective of my industry, once a large account comes and decides to outsource to Freeport, Grand Bahama Island, it's a deliberate decision. That large account brings 500 agents, 1,000 agents. Those 1,000 agents draw attention and then bring another 3,000. So it's a case of the analogy of ducks in a row, which is kind of a silly analogy because you imagine all these little yellow ducks in a row. But at the end of the day, if a duck is missing, it's not going to work. If they're just not in a row, it's a matter of calibrating and bringing it to the point where we start having that dynamic grow and become something very tangible. And in terms of this summit and what it represents in terms of technology, infrastructure, and policy, I think it's a case where once we talk about very good connectivity with the mainland, with the U.S. mainland, which there is in actual terms, yes. Fantastic service levels in terms of service levels and support in terms of that connectivity, which there's always room for improvement in that industry. Once we talk about cost becoming consistent in terms of connectivity and in terms of power and in terms of infrastructure, becoming consistent with what's found in North America in general, we're suddenly talking about a very attractive proposition which draws attention. And then, of course, last but not least, in terms of policy, once everyone, including the authorities, make a conscious decision to promote Freeport Grand Bahama yes. as a tech hub, as a destination, right. where executives in the U.S. won't necessarily be force-fed the concept by individuals such as myself, but will actually know about it. In other words, someone says Freeport, and some guy in Colorado says, hold on, Freeport. I know, I heard something about Freeport. Right. That's the point we need to get to and beyond Agree. In order to get to that trigger.
Mm-hmm. Agree. All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a stickler for time, and even though the Prime Minister has left the room, we have some very powerful politicians still in the room, and I saw them taking notes. The Minister for Grand Bahama taking notes, and I'm sure he'll put some of those ideas into action. We have the President of the Senate sitting right next to him. Behind them, we have another parliamentarian who will carry the news to the right environment to ensure that these policies are put in place so that Grand Bahama can really become known as that technology hub. Oh, no, I'm a talk show host today. I'm not a politician. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have one thing to say, one comment. As we start to think about whatever we're doing and we make steps, we think about the next steps, I want to make sure that we also include women and girls in the conversation and bring them to the table.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The last stat that I saw, I think women and girls represent 57% of the population in the Bahamas. And that's just not 50% of the population, that's 50% of one of the assets that you all have.
Wow.
And you need to make sure and you include them. So.
Brother Behari, I tell you what, if you wasn't like me, a married man, you're not going to leave it a day the way you came in. So ladies and gentlemen, can you all please stand and take a bow and give them a resounding round of applause for a wonderful, wonderful job. Excellent presentation. We appreciate all of you. And we'll see you around. Thank you. Thank you, Christy. Welcome back home. Once again, thank you very much. We're going to take a quick lunch break. We have restaurants in the area. We're going to ask you all to assemble back in this room by 2:20. They are giving discounts at the restaurants in the area. So once again, hang around and please be seated by 2:20. One. Yes, Ms. Hart, go ahead.
hear me? No?